Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. So again, welcome to our subject. And for today, we are about to discuss investment property. Okay, so this is your instructor, Noel Bergonia. So just sit back, relax, take down notes, and if you have questions, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay, so let's start our discussion about investment property. Okay, so this topic no, of investment property was actually coming from IAS number 40, no, wherein this standard okay, has the objective of prescribing the accounting treatment for investment property as well as some related disclosure requirements no related again with the investment property. So itong particular standard na to about investment property does not apply to the following no. We have the biological assets related to agricultural activities. So if you have remembered no previously we have discussed already agriculture under the biological assets and it is covered under IAS number 40. And also for the bearer plants, they are covered under IAS number 16. Moreover, no, mineral rights and mineral reserves such as oil, natural gases, and similar non-regenerative resources are discussed naman separately in our depletion, di ba, under IFRS number 6. Okay, so these are not applicable but again, no, we will be talking about investment property here in this particular discussion. Okay, so let's define investment property in accordance with the standard. So ang investment property po is a property. Okay, please take note of this. This property includes only land or a building or a part of the building or both. Take note class that under the definition, hindi nakabanggit ang machine, o kaya naman po equipment, okay, and other types of assets except for land and building. So that's correct, no? Investment property are applicable only for the land, building or part of the building or both, no, which are held okay to earn rentals and for capital appreciation or both. Okay, so they are not used for production, they are not intended for resale, okay, but they are being bought no for earning of rentals, okay, or even for capital appreciation. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. So that's the definition of investment property in accordance with IAS number 40. And these properties generates cash flows, okay, largely independent from the other assets no, na na-discuss na rin natin in our subject. Okay? So here are some examples of investment properties, okay, in accordance with IAS number 40. One would be a land held for long-term capital appreciation. So technically, in our definition kanina, no, properties that were held for capital appreciation, land or building, will be part of investment property. So ito po, no, land with the intention of capital appreciation rather than selling them in the ordinary course of business. Pag sinel kasi natin siya under the ordinary course of business, no, it's not already investment property, but they will be classified already as inventories. So which is not covered under this particular discussion. Moreover, no, we have mentioned this already in our previous discussion, okay, the land held for currently undetermined future use. So wala pang kasiguraduhan kung ano po yung gamit ng land na yon. So most likely no, it will be classified as investment property. Kasi kapag aware na tayo na let's say for example, gagamitin siya for construction of building o kaya naman plant site, that will not be an investment property but rather a PPE. Okay? Basta take note, to become an investment property, that land should have an undetermined future use. Okay, so ito po no, may notation dito that if an entity has not determined that the land will be used as owner-occupied property, so later we will be defining owner-occupied, no? It's somehow related to PPE, o kaya naman hindi rin po siya related to ordinary course of business, then that land is regarded for capital appreciation. Okay, which is under investment property. Okay, another example for investment property would be building owned by the entity. okay, building, but the intention of the building is being leased out under one or more operating lease. So pinaparentahan natin. And this type of lease, no, operating lease, will be discussed thoroughly sa inyo pagdating nyo po ng IFRS 16 discussion. Okay? So ayan, no, pinaparentahan natin because under the definition kanina, no, these properties are held for rentals. Okay? And also, a vacant building, okay, that is held to be leased out under one or more operating leases that is being constructed or developed for future use as investment property. So halos hawig din siya dun sa third bullet kanina. Okay, so these are some examples of our investment property, and later we will be having more specific examples about this, no, for our succeeding slides. Okay? So right now, ano-ano naman po yung hindi po considered as investment properties? Okay, so we have mentioned them already a while ago, no? Such as properties intended for sale in the ordinary course of business, or we have constructed them for resale. Okay, so meaning this will be part of our inventories, okay, and not investment property. Another would be owner occupied. Okay, so let's define first ano yung owner occupied in accordance with the standard. Okay, so ang owner occupied daw po ay property that was held by the owner o kaya naman a lessee under a contract of lease, no? Under a right of use asset, okay, for use in the production, okay, or supply of goods or services, or for administrative purposes. If you have remembered the definition of PPE, di ba? So PPE are tangible assets or property, plant, and equipment. No? If you forgot this. So property, plant, and equipment are tangible assets that are held for use in production, supply goods or services, at saka administrative purposes. So itong owner-occupied na to ay pasok doon sa definition ng isang property, plant, and equipment under IAS 16. Okay, and also for the right of use asset, no, which you will be discussing in another topic, no, about leases, no, which is covered under IFRS number 16. So they will not be part of the investment property. So if we read this, no, future use na owner occupied o kaya naman properties that were held for future development but to be used as owner occupied, o kaya naman i-occupied ng employee or occupied awaiting for disposal. So these owner-occupied properties are not part of earning for rentals. At the same time, they are not held for capital appreciation kasi they are intended to be used, no, by the company. Kaya siya owner-occupied property. And they are not part of the investment property, but rather they will be part of the property, plant, and equipment. And lastly, no, any property, whether land or building man yan, that was being leased out under finance lease. Oops, kanina in the previous slide, no, we have mentioned operating lease. Eh sir, bakit yun lang po yung kasama? Kasi pag may operating lease po, we retain the ownership of the property. Okay, while in finance lease, which you will be discussing under IFRS number 16, no, so there is either a transfer of ownership to another party already, o kaya naman there would be a recognition of the other party, which is the lessee, no, for the right of use asset. So hindi po siya considered as investment property in that case, since it's more on interest earnings yung makukuha natin doon rather than rental payments. Okay, so please take note of that ha. Pag operating lease, investment property. But if it is finance lease, then it's not an investment property, but rather it's accounted for under the IFRS number 16. Pero take note class ha, whether operating man yan or finance lease, dapat land and building lang hititignan natin under investment property. Baka kasi bigla kayong maguluhan na sabihin sa problem, ay, equipment. Okay? Tapos operating lease. O ayun, matik po yun. Hindi siya part ng investment property since it is an equipment. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know lang po on our respective chat boxes. Okay? Again, let's proceed, no? So another topic under it is what if our property is partially owner occupied. Okay, so di ba yung owner occupied, it's IAS number 16, PPE po siya. Okay, pero paano kung partially owner occupied siya at tapos partially rin pwede ba siyang maging investment property? So masasagot 'yan under paragraph number 10. So ang sabi po doon, if no, the portion of this owner occupied, okay, can be sold separately. Okay, so pwede natin siyang uh, o kaya naman pwede niyo siyang i-lease out separately, okay, under finance lease. Eh, kasi 'di ba pag operating, again, that's investment property. Pag finance lease, owner occupied. Okay, so if we can separate them, okay, identified as owner occupied o kaya naman investment property, then we can account them for separately depending upon their portion. Okay, so pwede siyang kung kalahati investment property, kalahati owner occupied, basta separable siya, then it would be presented separately. But what if we could not be able to solve it separately, or meaning it's an integral part? So what will we do? If the portion cannot be sold separately, okay, the property is investment property. This is the general rule. Investment property siya if, okay, pakitignan may if. Only if insignificant yung portion held for use in the production or supply of goods or services or administrative purposes. So meaning we need to check, no? The entity needs to check, okay, is this portion insignificant? So let's say for example, 2/3, no? This is for rentals. And then let's say for example, 1/3. Actually separable na to sa case na to, di ba? So held for production use. Okay, so ayan, no, kung separable siya at kayang i-separate, then we can separate them. Pero kung wala po, pero you have assessed na ay mukhang 2/3 yung nagamit natin for rentals and then 1/3 is for production, then most likely insignificant yung production. Then we can say that this is investment property. O kaya naman baka meron kang 100 na rooms or on the building, no, used for let's say meron lang isa or dalawa na ginamit for office, 'di ba? So this will now be classified as insignificant portion for the production or supply of goods or services. Okay? Kaya pwede siyang i-classified as investment property. Pero if in case significant yung portion, so mas malaki yung portion natin na ginagamit for production or supplies or goods or services, then malamang sa malamang it will be classified as property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so there is a need for the entity to assess it, no, if it could not be sold separately. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Okay, so again, if you do have questions, please let me know. So that is for our partially owner-occupied property. Okay? So another concern natin would be providing ancillary services. So ano po ba tong mga ancillary services na to? So these are actually services provided by the company, no, to the investment property. Okay, example of which is halimbawa, 'di ba, nagpaparenta kayo ng building and then the entity has, let's say for example, a security service. Okay? So ikaw yung nagpo-provide ng security doon sa building. Or even baka ikaw rin po yung merong maintenance. Okay? May maintenance tayo for the building, okay? O kaya janitorial services. Then that's considered as an ancillary services. Okay, so ano yung magiging treatment natin or how will this ancillary services affects, okay, the property to become an investment property? So it could be answered under paragraph number 11 to 13 of IAS number 40. So ang sabi po doon, an entity treats such property as investment property if services are insignificant to the arrangement as a whole. Okay, so sir, paano natin masasabing insignificant to the arrangement as a whole? So it could be, let's say for example, your primary business naman talaga is magparenta and then you're just providing a small amount of services or such as security and maintenance to the business, then you can still treat it as investment property. Kasi imposible naman na nagpaparenta ka ng building tapos ang major business mo is security and maintenance. That's possible. Okay, but of course, when you're going to take a look on that, no, mas malaki pa rin yung pinoprovide mong services as to the rental of the property. Okay, kaya we could treat that as investment property. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. However, okay, however, no, under paragraph number 12, no, let's talk about owner managed hotel. Okay, so um ito po, this is a property, this is a building, no, an owner managed hotel, which services are significant. Kasi 'di ba ang business natin doon is not actually renting the room but rather providing services, no, to those visitors who is renting on the room. Okay, so and also the time of rent is just a 1 day, 2 days, no, depending upon the hotel arrangement. So I hope that you have tried it already or you have heard already about this, 'di ba? So pag owner managed hotel in accordance with paragraph number 12, okay, which more likely, no, yung services na pino-provide doon is significant, okay, then that property will be treated daw as owner occupied. Okay, rather than an investment property. So parang kabaliktaran siya ng first bullet under paragraph 11 na kapag mas significant yung services na pinoprovide natin such as the owner-managed hotel, this will be classified as owner-occupied or PPE siya. Sir, bakit PPE? Kasi 'di ba sa hotel parang lumalabas na ang major business nila is providing services, no, to their clients. Okay, which it is, kung isipin natin, yung property na yon is held for use in the production. Okay, the production of services, no, by the hotel. Okay, so that's why we can treat that as a property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Okay, so that's all about ancillary services. Okay, another area of concern natin would be some sort of intercompany rentals. Okay, so sometimes, no, as you all know, there are parent and subsidiary relationship, no, which was being discussed to you in somehow in an overview, no, in your conceptual framework, but you will be discussing it further under the advanced accounting, no, the parent and subsidiary relationship. So typically, class, that whenever we have intercompany rentals, okay, so um, we need to check, no, the property ba will be considered as investment property or not. So let's take a look, no, kung ano po yung sinasabi ng paragraph number 15. So the property, okay, please take note of this, does not qualify, okay, as investment property. So hindi daw po siya investment property in the consolidated financial statement, okay, because the owner occupied the property is owner occupied from the perspective of the group. So let's say for example, class, no, halimbawa you have the parent company, okay, Jollibee Food Corporation in as an example. Okay, then meron tayong 'di ba subsidiary na let's say Red Ribbon, o kaya naman po ano pa ba yung mga subsidiaries niya, Chowking, 'di ba, Mang Inasal. So let's say for example, um, a part of um, a part of a building of the parent company was being leased out to the subsidiary. So kanina, pag under operating lease, matic investment property. Pero this is an exception, no? If it is an intercompany rentals. Yung kanina po is more on a usual client relationship rather than parent and subsidiary relationship. Okay, so halimbawa ito, pinaupahan ni parent kay subsidiary under operating lease yung kanyang property. Okay, and then they will present it in the consolidated financial statement. So pag consolidated financial statement, these are financial statement which already combines the result of the parent and subsidiary. So you are already applying here IFRS number 10, okay, for the consolidated financial statement. Okay, so elimination entry po wise, no, na pag diniscuss niyo na po yung consolidated financial statement, no, matatanggal po yung investment na yon kasi it was being viewed as owner occupied. So parang pinakapagamit mo lang siya on the subsidiary itself. Okay, but not considered as an investment property. So I hope that that is clear, ha. So please take note, no, pag yung problem sinabi that there is a parent and subsidiary relationship, no, in the consolidated financial statement, matik po na tatanggalin natin yung investment na yon, property na item, okay, because it will not qualify as an investment property if it was being leased out under operating lease to a subsidiary. Okay, however, okay, ito, however, no, if this parent and subsidiary will be preparing an individual financial statement rather than a consolidated financial statement, then meron pong investment property. Okay, so pag individual, limbawa, subsidiary 1, subsidiary 2, subsidiary 3, okay, nagpe-prepare sila ng individual financial statements, then they can present that as an investment property kung ito namang subsidiary na to ay may pinaparenta, let's say, to the parent company. Okay? Pero kapag kinonsolidate na yon, no, yung lahat ng individual financial statements ay pinagsama-sama na, okay, kinonsolidate na ni parent, then yung consolidated financial statement will not have any investment property. Okay? So I hope that that is clear, no? So on our next slide, we will show no how will this intercompany rentals works. Okay? So again, pag may questions po kayo, please let me know. Okay. So to give you a preview of this intercompany rentals, okay, so let me give you this example number 1. Okay, so the question states that in the consolidated financial statements, what amount should be reported as investment property? So please take note, class, consolidated financial statement. So Spaghetti Corporation and its subsidiaries, no, as a group. So meron tayong parent and subsidiary relationship, owned the following property. Okay, so let's read and then let's classify it immediately whether investment property ba siya or not. Okay, so first, no, a building under construction used as an investment property. So si Spaghetti, mayroong kinoconstruct na building, okay, which is held for investment property. So hindi naman siya pinaparenta on the subsidiary, so no need for intercompany elimination. Thus, this will be classified as an investment property. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. The intention of the building is for investment property. Next would be a building owned by a subsidiary. Okay, so pagmamayari ng subsidiary and for which the subsidiary provides ancillary services. So remember class kanina in our concept about ancillary services, so if the services are insignificant to the arrangement, then it could be treated as investment property. So una, hindi naman sinabi that this is an owner-occupied hotel. 'Di ba? Yun yung kaninang exception na PPE yun, 'di ba? Pero dito, kay hindi rin sinabi na significant yung ancillary services. So, based on this data only, no, that the subsidiary owned the building, okay, and then it's just providing ancillary services, then it would be treated as investment property. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Okay, so pinagpo-provide um, ng ano yan, ng financial statement to be presented as investment property. Okay, pero pag sinabing significant yung ancillary, then ilalagay na natin siya as property, plant, and equipment. Okay? Next would be equipment lease out under operating lease. So please take note, class, that this asset is equipment. So it's not found under the definition of investment property, okay, but it is subjected to operating lease. So we will classify that as property, plant, and equipment. So you will be discussing that further under IFRS 16. Okay? Next would be land held for undetermined future use. So kanina, 'di ba, we have mentioned that it will be classified as investment property kasi undetermined yung future use. Okay, ito na, no? Ito na yung intercompany rentals. So a land leased out to the subsidiary under a finance lease. Okay, so it would be subjected and remember that under a finance lease arrangement, 'di ba? So it will not be treated as uh, an investment property. So it will be under an intercompany rentals, no? But that will not be presented under the consolidated financial statement as investment property. Okay, so PPE yan under the consolidated FS. And also kahit ito man po ay an operating lease, no? So it's not part of the investment property, no? It's property, plant, and equipment. Okay? So next, we have property held by a subsidiary. So binili ni subsidiary, which is a real estate company in the ordinary course of business. So binili niya for ordinary course of business. So technically, it's not investment property, but rather an inventory. Okay? The next, a property held for production purposes. So kung production yung purpose niya, then it should be property, plant, and equipment. And lastly, no, a vacant building leased out under an operating lease. So hindi naman po sinabi na it was leased out to the subsidiaries or to the parent. Okay, so it may pertain to others, no. So this will be classified as an investment property. So considering all of the items, no? The 3,200,000 plus 1,800,000, okay, plus the 2,500,000, and also plus the 1,900,000. So the total investment property under our consolidated financial statement, no, at the end of the year will be 9,400,000. Very good. Okay? So again, if you do have questions po, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. So this is the first example natin, a summary of the partial discussion about investment property. Okay? So I hope that that is clear ha. Again, kung may hindi po clear sa inyo, please let me know lang. Okay. So now, after determining ano po yung mga investment properties, no? So let me now discuss naman what would be the initial recognition for our investment property. Okay, so in accordance with IAS number 40, okay, so our investment property will be recognized as asset when and only when. So this is the recognition principle natin. Okay. First, no, it is probable that we will have future economic benefits that is associated in this investment property. Okay. And also the costs of the investment property will be measured reliably. So this is just the typical recognition principle natin, similar to the other assets that we have discussed already. Probable, and the amount would be measured reliably. Okay, so that's the recognition principle. Okay, so once it is already recognizable as investment property, the next question is how do we measure it initially? So in terms of initial recognition, IS number 40 states that our investment property will be recognized at costs. Uy, ilan na po yung cost natin? Inventories, property, plant, and equipment, intangible assets, and also the investment property. So initially, it will be at costs. Okay, so mamaya we will be discussing again and reiterating some of the modes of acquisitions and how can we derive the costs. Okay, so but aside from it, no, technically the cost, no, this cost will include the transaction costs. Okay, that are essential in bringing up this asset in its current state, okay, to be used as investment property. Okay, so ayan po, pakitandaan yan ha. It should be initially recognized at costs. So now let's talk about how do we acquire investment property. Okay, so we have various modes of acquisitions. Most of it you have heard already under the discussion of PPEs at saka intangible assets. Okay, so let's just again reiterate them. First of which would be by purchase. So when we purchase an investment property, of course, the cost of it would be our purchase price, okay, which is of course net of any discounts. Okay, ano pa? It should be including the non-refundable taxes. Okay, import duties, pero wala naman masyado import duties since we're talking about land and building here, right? And any directly attributable expenditures. So yan po yung mga additional cost natin kanina. Okay? So this directly attributable expenditures includes, okay, professional fees, okay, for legal services, property transfer taxes, and other transaction costs pa po. Okay, so you can have broker's commissions, okay, ano pa, the cost of clearing just in case, okay, and the likes. Okay, so which are not costs, okay, to increase our investment property. So which are not the costs under IS number 40? We have one, the startup costs. Okay, so as you start the business, no, it's not considered as a cost, but rather it's an expense. Another would be operating losses incurred before. Please take note of this. Before the investment property achieves the planned level of occupancy. Pero take note class, no? Typically the operating losses are not charged to any assets, no, as a whole. Okay. And lastly, we have also some abnormal amounts of waste materials, labor, and other resources. No, if we have constructed or developed the property to become an investment property, abnormal amounts. No, so just like in inventory, di ba, mga abnormal wastes will be charged lang po as expense and not part of our costs. So that's for our purchase. Okay. So another mode of acquisition would be using deferred credit. Okay, so pag inutang natin yung ating biniling investment property. So how do we account for it? So typically just like the same with the intangible assets and PPE, no? So we will be recognizing the costs based on the cash price equivalent of the asset being purchased. Okay? And then the difference between the amount, no, of that cash price equivalent to be recognized at costs and the total payments to be made by the company shall be recognized po as interest expense over the period of credit. So hindi po natin ika-capitalize yung interests. Okay? So if we need to compute for the present value kasi hindi po available yung cash price equivalent, then you need to do so. Okay? Kasi that will be representing the cost of our investment property. Okay? So another mode of acquisition, no? It's your third time to hear this. Okay, you have the exchange for non-monetary assets. Okay, so of course, you need to check whether meron ba tayong commercial substance or wala po, okay, as to our non-monetary exchange. So if there is a commercial substance, okay, wherein, as you all know, there is a configuration of risk, no? Magkaiba yung cash flows ng old asset and the new assets, no, at saka available yung fair value. So here are the order of priority, no. So of course you have the fair value of the asset given up, okay, which has plus cash paid or minus cash received. Okay, so again, yan, kapag available yung fair value, ha. So fair value of the asset given up, then kung wala po yung fair value of the asset given up, then you can use the fair value of the asset received. Okay, and last priority would be the carrying value of the asset given up. Although pag may commercial substance, hindi naman po talaga ito nakukuha kasi either of the two will be present. Okay, just to reiterate lang, if both are present, no, the fair value of the asset given up and the fair value of the asset received, then we will be using the fair value of the asset given up plus cash paid or minus cash received, if any. Okay. On the other hand, if there is no commercial substance or it lacks commercial substance for the exchange, now it means that our investment property shall be recognized, okay, using the carrying amount of the asset given up. Okay, so yan yung ating recognition kapag no or lack of commercial substance, and also you need to add any cash paid then or minus any cash received. Okay? So I hope that that is clear po sa atin, ha. So you can have also the shares, no. So ito lang kasi yung mga nabanggit sa standard ng IS 40, no. Non-monetary exchange, deferred credit, and purchase. But we can have also the same with the others that we have in PPE and intangible assets, such as in exchange of shares, ano pa, sir, possible ba ang government grant dito? Bihira if this is investment property. Okay, pero may possibility pa rin. Okay? And then meron pa tayo nung issuance of shares. Okay, may deferred payment na tayo, and the rest, no? They are just similar with PPEs and intangible assets. Okay? Even self-constructions, no? Self-constructed or developed na property building, no, so para maging investment property will have just the same costs recognition, the materials, the labor, and in the interest capitalization, just like the property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so to give you an example about the modes of acquisition, okay, so let's have example number 2. So you have Hotdog Incorporated has the following transactions during the year, and you are asked to determine the cost. So we have 2 bullets, no? So we tend to determine magkano po yung ating cost to be recognized under each of this investment properties if they are investment property. Ha? So let's read first bullet. So you have a land site for capital appreciation. Oh, yun pa lang, di ba? It is already under investment property, land for capital appreciation, which was acquired originally at 9 million. So that's our purchase price, 9 million. Then Hotdog paid 250,000 commissions to a broker. So yung naghanap ng land, no, binayad niya would be 250,000. Then costs of 105,000 were incurred to clear the land. So cost of clearing, no? So sa PPE, 'di ba? Ang cost of clearing natin tinitignan pa natin whether magpapatayo ba ng building or not, 'di ba? So dito po, it's just a site for capital appreciation, so charge it to the land. Okay? Then during the clearing, timber and gravel were discovered or recovered and sold for 15,000. So nagkaroon tayo ng recovery of an amount, so it will be deducted from our costs. So let's now identify the cost of this land site for capital appreciation. So of course, it will include the purchase price, okay, plus the broker's commission, which is a directly attributable costs, and also the net cost of clearing natin, another directly attributable costs. So it would be the original clearing cost na 105,000 less the materials recovered from the clearing, no? So it will reduce the amount of the cost, no? So the net cost of clearing lang is 90,000. So if you add them all, the land which should be classified as investment property will have a cost of 9,340,000. Okay, so that's the cost of the land for an investment property. Okay, so I hope that that is clear. Ha? If you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so another would be itong second bullet. So there was a land and building daw were acquired to be held for lease under operating lease. Okay, so under operating lease, so malamang sa malamang, pasok naman tayo sa investment property kasi land and building yon and then operating lease. Now, the company made a down payment of 3,600,000. So kasama yan. Then issued 15,000 shares, 210 par value, ordinary shares. So there is an issuance also of shares, no? Even though hindi nabanggit dyan kanina sa theoretical discussion, it's just the same with the previous discussed topics sa intangible and PPE, no, that they will be part of the cost, no, for the fair value of the asset na na-receive natin pero malamang walang fair value yung asset, o kaya gagamitin natin yung fair value ng shares, which will be the 235,000. 235 per share. Yan yung market price natin. Okay, mamaya we will be using that to multiply with the 15,000. Then also, we have issued 3-year non-interest bearing note for 4,500,000. Then the note is payable in equal annual installments of 1,500,000. So non-interest bearing annual installments. So malamang sa malamang, we need to compute for the present value, and the market rate of interest similar notes is 10%. So yun yung gagamitin natin for the discounting. And please take note, class, that we need to allocate value for separately for the land and building. So 40%, okay, of the purchase price is allocated to the land. Okay, so ibig sabihin 60% is allocated to the building. So let's first determine the total amount of the land and building bago tayo mag-allocate. Okay, so first you have the down payment given na 3,600,000. Then you have also the fair value of the shares, which is coming from the 15,000 share issued times 235 per share na market price. So with regards to the shares, we have a fair value of 3,525,000. Then the last one, no, the other consideration that we have given was the notes, di ba? So the notes was a non-interest bearing. So tapos naka-annual installment. So this would be an ordinary annuity computation. So the 1,500,000 times the present value of ordinary annuity using 10% at 3 years, no? 3 years. So that's 1.1. Okay, pindot divide para sa mga naka-manual to, and then tatlong equal sign. Okay, so lalabas doon, i-minus nyo po sa 1, then divide it by 0.10. So lalabas po, it's 2.4869. So multiplying it with the annual installment, then the present value of our non-interest bearing note is 3,730,350. Okay? So adding all of the considerations, okay, being paid in exchange for that land and building, so it's having a total value of 10,855,350. So yan yung total value nila, and we need to allocate the values to the land and building. Okay, for the land, it's 40%. So the total value or total price times 40%. So the value allocated to the land as its costs will be 4,342,150. 140. Okay. And then as to the building, which is 60%, so it's 6,513,210. Okay? So I hope that that is clear ha. So paano kung walang percentage? Anong gagawin? Kung available yung market values ng land and building, then you can use the land and building to allocate, no, yung fair value nila, just like what we did in PPE at saka intangible assets. Okay? So that's the cost of the investment property. So any questions or clarifications, please let me know lang po on our respective chat boxes. Okay? So we are done with the initial recognition, okay, and measurement, which is at costs. Okay. So now, let us proceed with the measurement naman after initial recognition. Okay, by the way, before I proceed, no, so if you want to take a break or uh, you want to pause it for a while, then you can do so. Okay, then continue lang ako magsasalita, no, for the measurement after initial recognition. Okay, alam kong inaantok ka na, so sana magising ka na. Charot lang. Okay, so ayan, no, I hope that you are still alive, taking down notes. And again, pag may questions ha, ibato mo sa akin yan. Okay, so ayan, let us continue. Okay, so after we initially recognized investment property at cost, no? So under IAS number 40, we shall measure our investment property, okay? Halos hawig siya with the PPE at saka intangible asset. Yun nga lang, no? It's a choice, either a cost model, okay, or fair value model. Yun yung pinagkaiba with the intangible at saka property, plant, and equipment, no? Dati revaluation method or model. Ngayon po, fair value model. So we will explain that further later. Okay? So when you are reporting, tapos, please take note ha, it should apply to all of the investment property. So hindi lang siya per class. Kasi sa PPE, it's for class of the PPE or even intangible asset per class. Ngayon po, for investment properties, the choice for cost model or fair value model should be applied to all of the investment properties in our statement of financial position. And that's a strict instruction under paragraph number 30 of IAS number 40. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. So ngayon po, isa-isahin ulit natin, no, how to account for cost model and revaluation model. Okay, so pag sinabi nating cost model, it's typically recognizing our investment property under either if it's in accordance with IFRS number 5, which will be discussed in a separate video lecture, no? If it meets the criteria for becoming a held for sale, o kaya naman po in accordance with IFRS 16, Okay? Or even, ito yung pinaka-typical na ginagamit natin for cost model under investment property. No? So we apply the cost model under IAS 16. So paano ba yon? The cost model will be costs less accumulated depreciation, less accumulated impairment. Okay, so similar lang din po siya. Okay, sa intangible asset, accumulated amortization, di ba yung gamit natin? Okay, so yes, we depreciate it if we use cost model. Sir, is the depreciation method similar to property, plant, and equipment? Pwede kami mag-double declining, straight line, o kaya naman po um, some of the years, yeah, no, depending upon what is stated in the problem kasi it's still under the requirement of IAS 16. So pwede pong i-apply yun, pero kapag wala pong sinabi, then we will assume that we will be using straight line method for depreciating. Okay, so that's how cost model works, no? Hindi na natin papatagalin yan kasi we have already been discussing it since property, plant, and equipment and intangible assets. Okay? Right now, let's talk about fair value model. Ano kaya pinagkaiba nito with the others? Okay, so under fair value model, okay, so um, after we initially recognize it at cost, no, from the word itself, fair value model, so you will be recognizing all of the investment properties at fair value. Yeah, that's correct. It should be recognized at fair value. Okay? So that fair value later will be discussed again, no, in accordance with IFRS 13. Okay? So kung at fair value po yung recording natin, okay, sir, ano ba yung dati sa PPE at intangible? Pag revaluation model kasi, 'di ba, ang ginagamit din natin is actually fair value, no? Pero ang problema lang natin dati kapag tayo po ay nagre-revaluation model, the difference between the um, fair value at saka yung yung ating carrying value will be recognized as revaluation surplus. 'Di ba? Revaluation surplus. Pero ngayon, no, under fair value model, the changes or fluctuation in fair value should be recognized under the profit or loss. You are correct. It should be recognized under the profit or loss. Okay, at not revaluation surplus, ha. 'Di ba yung revaluation surplus, it will be part of the other comprehensive income for the increase or decrease at saka napupunta sa shareholders equity section, 'di ba, ng balance sheet. Pero ito po, it will now go to the profit or loss for the changes in the fair value. Okay? And please take note, class, that when we have fair value model, no, unlike with the revaluation model dati na under revaluation model, subsequently, i-depreciate mo pa siya, under fair value model, there will be no depreciation to be recognized. Kasi nga po, we're just concerned with the fair value. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Okay. So I will be again reiterating to you, no, our discussion before about fair value, okay, kung saan po manggagaling 'yon. Okay, so under IFRS 13, so mag-jump muna tayo to another standard. Okay, so IFRS 13 is all about fair value measurement. Okay, under paragraph 72 to 90. Okay, so it enumerates yung fair value hierarchy natin or best evidences ng fair value. Okay, which we can use in the determination of the fair value for investment property. Okay, so the first level, okay, or the priority would be the quoted prices in the active market for identical assets. Okay, so identical assets dapat, okay, for and base it on the active market. Okay, so if there is none for level 1 inputs, then let's proceed with level 2, no? So it would be again quoted prices, okay, for similar assets. Okay, for similar assets, not necessarily identical, no, in the active market. Baka kasi wala pong active market for the identical asset na yon. Okay, so identical muna, then active market for similar. Okay, pag wala pong identical and active market, then you can now use the unobservable input for the asset. So it will be discussed in IFRS 13. Okay, but unobservable inputs are usually developed by the entity, no, using the best available information for entity's own data. So hindi po siya nanggagaling sa active market. Okay, this is the list of the priority, yung unobservable inputs na yan. Okay, so again, that's the reiteration for the sources of our fair values. Okay, so again, pag may questions kayo ha, please let me know. I hope na hindi ka pa inaantok, no? Sampaling ka ng katotohanan na may fair value hierarchy. Charot lang, okay? So I hope na papangiti kita kahit corny na ha. Okay, mahal ka nun, no? Ngumiti ka na. Okay, so let's proceed, no? With again regarding the measurement after initial recognition. Okay, so fair value model pa rin. So under IAS number 14, nagbigay po siya ng some sort of precaution, no, that we determine the carrying amount of the investment property under the fair value model, no. We need to be careful, okay, not to double count any asset or liability. Okay, so dapat hindi tayo mag-double count. Baka kasi mamaya, no, may classify natin siya as investment property, pero it's part na pala, o kaya naman baka naka-classify siya in other classifications na. Okay, so let me give you an example. Okay, equipment, no, that is an integral part of the building. Okay, and is generally included in the fair value of the investment property. So pag nag-assess ka ng property na under classified na siya as investment property at may equipment doon, at take note, integral part po siya of that building, then ang sabi po, no, you will be recognizing that as an investment property rather than putting it as a separate property, plant, and equipment. Okay? So, let me give you an example. Pwede pong elevator. Diba? Elevator o kaya naman yung centralized aircon system, okay, nung building, di ba? That's an integral part of the buildings na pinapa-lease out mo under operating lease, then that will be classified as investment property. Kasi pag inassess naman as a whole yung fair value daw, okay, kasama na doon sa assessment pati yung equipment na yon. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Okay, so wag i-double count ha, baka mamaya nilagay natin as fair value, kasama na siya sa fair value ng investment property, and then you have tried to account it for separately with the PPE, so na double count na siya. Okay, and we don't want that. Another would be if an office is leased on a furnished basis, the fair value of the office is generally including the furniture because rental income relates to the furnished office. Okay, so ayun, parang um, let's say for example, no, in offices being used na pinaparenta, no, as I've experienced before, meron ng mga television setups, no, o kaya naman po yung mga fixed furnitures there. Okay, so again, ang pinapaalala lang po dito, no, if they are part already of the office being leased out under operating lease, no, which is already classified as investment property, no, do not separate them to be reported as property, plant, and equipment kasi furniture siya. 'Di ba? So kasi naisip natin, ay, furniture siya, dapat PPE siya. No, it's part already of the assessment again of the fair value as a whole of the office being leased out to another party. Okay? So I hope that that is clear. Another, no, ito po ay some sort of about leasing na rin po, no. We do not double count, no, yung fair value ng investment property should exclude prepaid or accrued operating lease income because they will be a separate liability or asset. So ayan naman, no, wag mo na siyang isama sa investment property, no. You will be discussing it in IFRS number 16, no, about the prepaid and accrued operating lease income. Okay? And then also, the fair value of investment property held by a lessee as a right of use asset reflects expected cash flows. Okay, so hindi na rin po siya kasama dyan. And accordingly, no, kapag sinama po siya, okay, or the valuation for the investment property, okay, is inclusive of that lessee, no, expected cash flows, then sabi po, if valuation obtained for the property is net of all payments, Okay, so ang gagawin ninyo is to add back, no? So parang aalisin natin yung liability component because you will be discussing that in um, IFRS 16 ulit, no? I cannot explain it here because it's a long discussion about the right of use asset, no? So but typically pag sinabi that in a lease contract, no, there is a right of use asset, no? In this case, no, and meron pong mineto na payments for the lease liability, then ang gagawin nyo lang po is add it back, no, para maibalik natin siya kung magkano ba talaga yung value niya as investment property before deducting any amount of any lease liability. Okay, so I hope that that is clear, ha. So we do not want to have any double counting o kaya naman po miss misrecording, no, nung particular amounts in our financial statements. Okay, so I hope that that is clear po sa atin, no. So to continue pa rin po with our discussion of fair value model, okay, so what if, no, so ito yung mga typical na tanong. What if daw there is an inability to measure the fair value reliably? Okay, kasi 'di ba with our criteria kanina in IFRS 13, no, we have the hierarchy, no, in identifying the fair value to be reported under um, fair value model of investment property. So paano nga kung we could not be able to identify or measure it reliably? Okay, una po sa lahat muna, no, there is a rebuttable presumption in accordance with IAS number 40 na kaya nating i-determine yung fair value in a continuing basis. So yun po yung ating idea kaya tayo nag-proceed with the fair value model, no? Kaya nating ma-determine yung fair value. Now, if the fair value cannot be reliably measured, no, it means that yung market comparable properties natin is inactive or baka wala yung active market for identical assets or similar assets or pati yung unobservable inputs wala rin. Okay, and also some other alternative measurements in identifying the fair value ay wala pa rin, then anong gagawin natin? In this case, no, the entity shall measure the investment property using the cost model. Okay, so kung hindi kayang ma-identify na yung fair value, then we will be using the cost model. And please take note, class, that under this concept, no, in investment property, the residual value for the property is assumed to be zero. Okay, assumed to be zero then. And also, with regards to the usage na po of cost model, then you shall account it for just like what we have mentioned a while ago under cost model na IAS 16 and IFRS or IFRS 16, no, until its disposal. Okay, so hindi na siya pwedeng bumalik sa fair value model. Okay, so if you choose cost model now, then until disposal, cost model na po siya. Hindi mo siya pwedeng gawin as fair value model na. Now, also another precautionary measure, no? Precaution lang natin to. If an entity has previously measured the investment property already at fair value, so pag na-measure mo na siya at fair value, so kanina doon sa previous slide, no, if hindi kayang identify, so malamang sa malamang lahat ng inyong investment property will be using cost model. Okay, at hanggang matapos siya, cost model na siya. Okay, ito pag sinabing na record mo siya at fair value, no, it shall continue to measure fair value until disposal. So bawal po mag-crossover na cost model ka nung una and then fair value model. Okay, so kanina, no, in the previous slides discussion, so please take note na kung hindi mo kaya identify yung fair value, no, sa simula pa lang, then dapat cost model ka na. So kung cost model ka until you dispose, which will be discussed later, no, it should be cost model pa rin. Okay, if you have started it at fair value model, then it should be until disposal, no, at fair value, even if, okay, so ito yung sasagot, sir, paano pag nawala? Even if comparable market transactions are less frequent or market prices becomes less readily available. So still, you will be using the fair value. Okay, kung walang-wala na talaga sa problem, sa problem kung wala ka na makitang any fair value, malamang the reporting of it is still kung ano yung huling fair value na meron ka or available. Okay? So are we clear on that? Ayan. So I hope na malinaw sa atin ha. So to give you examples about cost model and revaluation model as the measurement after initial recognition, okay, and based dito sa discussion natin, here is example number 3. Okay, so you are being asked to prepare the journal entries from 2018 to 2020 if the company uses, una muna, cost model, and then later we will have the fair value model. Okay, so let me read the problem. Tokwa Corporation has an investment property with an original cost of 4,800,000. So that's the costs when acquired on April 1, 2018. Please take note of the date class, ha? April 1, 2018. On that date, the property had a useful life of 25 years, okay, and an estimated residual value of 400,000. Okay. Yes, we will be using that under cost model, no? And uses a straight line method for depreciating its investment property. So straight line lang. Here are the following fair values. So una sa lahat, no, since this is cost model na una nating ko-computen or i-entryhan, no, these fair values will be ignored. Okay, so kagaya ng crush mo, no, wala tayong pakialam diyan. Charot lang. Okay, so ayan, so we will be ignoring the fair values, no, for using the cost model. Okay, so first, no, on April 1, 2018, for the purchase of the investment property, so debit investment property, 4,800,000, and credit cash, 4,800,000. Okay, so after almost 9 months, okay, we need to adjust on December 31, 2018. So please take note, we will be applying the similar approach under IAS 16 about depreciating the asset. So we debit depreciation expense, 132,000, and credit accumulated depreciation investment property, 132,000. So nakuha yon mula doon sa cost of 4,800,000, deduct the salvage or residual value of 400,000, then the depreciable cost ay 4,400,000. Then divide it with the 25 years na given na useful life. And since in 2018, it's just started from April up to December, then 9/12 lang po. So, doon po nanggaling yung ating depreciation expense na 132,000. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know lang po. So at the end of 2018, the carrying value of our asset, no, of course, it's just the same with the PPE na cost less accumulated depreciation. So we will have 4,668,000 na carrying value at the end of 2018. Okay? So wala po tayong any considerations ng fluctuation ng fair value dyan. Okay, so to continue, no, we will be again depreciating on December 31, 2019. And at this time, whole year na po siya. So the whole year depreciation was 176,000. So that's the depreciable cost of 4,400,000 divided by 25 years. Okay, so that's our depreciation for 2019. Okay, so the carrying value at the end of 2019, okay, so yung cost pa rin is 4,800,000, less nyo yung total accumulated po ng 2018 na 132,000 at saka ng 2019, 176,000. So we have a total accumulated depreciation na po na 308,000. So the carrying value at the end of 2019 is 4,492,000. Okay, so that's our investment properties carrying value in 2019. And lastly, for 2020, no, we depreciate again 1 year, no, debit depreciation expense, credit accumulated depreciation, investment property, 176,000. Okay, and as to our carrying value on December 31, 2020, so it will now be 4,316,000 na lang po. Okay, so that's how it works for cost model, hawig na hawig with the PPE natin. Okay? So again, pag may questions please let me know. On the other hand, now let's proceed with fair value model. So sa fair value model, okay, summarize natin yung binanggit natin kanina. There should be no depreciation, and then any fluctuation on the fair values will be recognized in the profit or loss. Okay, so we start with the purchase. So same lang kanina, debit investment property, credit cash, 4,800,000. And then, no depreciation tayo at the end of 2018, but we will be recording the change in our um, fair value. So for 2018, as mentioned, we have a fair value of 4,850,000. Okay, so our gain on change is 50,000. So debit investment property, 50,000. Okay, and credit gain on fair value change or fair value gain. Okay, so for as long as it is a profit or loss account, no, iba-iba kasi pwede yung title. So 50,000. So um, again, that's coming from the original cost, no, na 4,800,000 less the current fair value at the end of 2018 na 4,850,000. So if I asked you magkano na yung carrying value ng ating asset on December 31, 2018 using the fair value model, okay, would be um, 4,850,000. Sorry, bakit naka-revaluation model? Palitan ko lang ha. Okay, so again, if you have questions, please let me know po. Okay, so that's for our 2018. Okay, so let's proceed now with 2019. Okay, so on December 31, 2019, mas tumaas pa yung value niya, naging 5 million pesos na po. So, ang comparison po natin is yung previous fair value, okay, which is 4,850,000 and the new fair value. So, there would be a debit to investment property, 150,000, and credit gain from fair value change na 150,000. So again, the difference of the current fair value of 5 million and the previous na 4,850,000. So at the end of 2019, it will be recorded at the fair value na po na 5 million pesos. And lastly, on December 31, 2020, okay, so naging 5,100,000 na po yung ating fair value. So nag-increase ulit. Okay, so debit investment property 100,000 and credit gain on fair value change 100,000. So please take note class, that's the difference of the previous year na fair value, okay, and the current year na fair value. Sir, possible po ba na bumaba rin yan? Yes, pag bumaba, edi debit loss ka, credit investment property. Okay? So, ganun lang po. Pag bumaba, di bababa rin yung fair value natin, which means there would be a loss to be recorded. Okay? So, any questions or clarifications? Again, please let me know on our respective chat boxes. Okay, so we are done with our measurement after subsequent recognition. So mamaya may additional problem pa tayo dyan after some of the topics pa, okay, to be discussed. Okay, so the next topic, okay, for this discussion will be, okay, about the transfer. Okay, so sir, ano po yung transfer? Okay, so there would be a transfer for an investment property to another classification. So yun po yun, a transfer from investment property to another classification or baka other type of asset siya, then it will become an investment property. So when can we say that there is a transfer of property to or from the investment property? So sabi po under IS 40, no? So there would be a transfer of property to or from investment property when and only when there is a change in use. So that's the reason why we are transferring to or from investment property. May iba na siya. Charot, hindi. Nagpalit lang po ng gamit. Okay, so iba yung purpose niya. Okay, kaya po we change also the classification. So later, isa-isahin po natin yan. Now, a change of use occurs when a property meets or cease to meet the definition of investment property. So kanina ang definition natin, a land and building, no, that is held for rentals or capital appreciation. Okay, so pwedeng hindi niya na-meet yon or baka na-meet ng inventory or property, plant, and equipment yung definition na yon, then we can transfer it to or from. And there should be an evidence for such change of use, no, such as contract maybe for the contract of lease, o kaya naman pag ito naman po ay nag-cease na or natapos na po, no, yung kanyang leasing agreement, operating lease, then baka ginamit na in the office. Okay, so such those things na mamaya ibabanggitin natin. Okay, so a change in intention. So ito po ay no-no, no? Hindi po considered na change in use yung change in the management intention for the use of property. Okay, halimbawa, gusto lang nila, no, na halimbawa, ay ito investment property to, no? Gawin natin siyang inventory. Okay? Unless the case na maibebenta na natin or pwede na natin siyang ibenta, then that would be an inventory. O kaya naman, ay itong investment property na to gawin natin na um, office. Okay, so magiging owner-occupied. Yung evidence, hindi naman nagsasabi ng ginagamit. Then, again, no, the change in management intention does not provide an evidence of a change in use. Kasi importante yun, di ba? Na kapag change in use, no, there should be an evidence of such change so that we can account for properly for transferring to or from the investment property. Okay? So how do we account for this, no? So ayan, sa mga susunod na slide we will be discussing that. But right now let's identify ano po ba yung change in use at paano po siya mangyayari. Okay? So first, no, transferring from investment property. So what if initially investment property siya, pinaparentahan natin, okay, under a lease o kaya naman undetermined yung future use niya, okay, the land and building lang ulit then if it is commencing now kapag owner occupation, so ayun nga, gagamitin na as owner occupied, so magiging PPE na siya. Okay, so also pwede na rin na commencement of development with the view for resale. So we are intending it to be sold rather than being used for rentals or capital appreciation. Then we can transfer an investment property to the owner occupied or inventories, no, depending upon the change of its usage. Okay, so mamaya isa-isahin natin yan. And also, we have a transfer to investment property, no? So we have halimbawa, dati owner occupied siya. Okay, so ginagamit siya as office and then nag-transfer ka ng place, ng office, then pinarentahan mo na lang yung building or land, then they will now become an owner occupied, no, coming from sorry, um end pala. End pala, no? So dati owner occupied sila and then they will now be rented to another. So nag-end na po yung owner occupied property na yon. So naging investment property na siya. And also ayan, commencing as operating lease to another party o kaya naman po it is intended to be sale or sold, no, pero they are now going to use it na lang as to be rented, okay, as an operating lease. Okay, so magiging investment property na rin po siya. So this is just an overview. We will be discussing them one by one on the succeeding slides and also some examples about them. Again, if you do have questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, so let's start with the transfer. Okay, so again, there is a transfer if there is a change in use, not by a change in management's intention. Okay, so the first of which is what if, no, meron tayong investment property. So investment property muna tayo magsimula, no? Okay, which uses cost model. Okay, so di ba pwede siya naka-cost model. And then, madi-discontinue na siya as investment property kasi baka either ginagamit na siya as owner-occupied or it could be now held for sale. Okay, so ibebenta na po siya in the ordinary course of business. Okay, so pwede po yun, no, na from cost model, matatransfer siya to owner-occupied o kaya inventory. So paano po yung mangyayari? By the way, remember class that in the owner-occupied, it could be a revaluation model, pero ang intindihin muna natin dito would be the cost model under owner occupied, tapos yung inventories naman natin at cost, 'di ba, to be initially recorded. So ang sabi under paragraph number 59 of IS 40, when the entity uses cost model, okay, for the investment property, transfer between investment property, owner-occupied at inventory do not change the carrying amount. So wala pong pagbabago kasi iisa lang naman yung hulmahan nila. Naka-cost model silang lahat. 'Di ba? Kung yun yung transfer from investment property to um, owner-occupied and inventories, or even vice versa from owner-occupied or inventory to costs model na investment property, no, wala pong pinagkaiba kasi they are just using the same model. Okay, so their carrying amount will be deemed as the cost, and they do not change the cost of that property for measurement or disclosure purposes. Okay, so the cost will be the cost, or the carrying value will be our costs. Okay, so to give you an idea about this, no, wala siyang masyadong complication kasi carrying value to carrying value lang yung transfer natin, no gain or loss or no revaluation in that case. Okay, so let's have example number 4. So um, we are asked to record the transfer of the land to property, plant, and equipment. So a land daw initially with an undetermined use owned by Inihaw Incorporated. Okay? Initially, undetermined yung use niya, so that's investment property, will now be used as a plant site. So magiging PPE na siya kasi it will be used for construction of plant, okay, for the company starting January 2, 2021. Okay, so the carrying value of the land as of that date was 1,600,000. So since from cost model to cost model transfer siya, then ayan, simple lang, no? You debit the land, no, which is a PPE terminology, okay, 1,600,000, and then we credit investment property land, okay, which is the original classification, 1,600,000. So as you have seen here, no gain or loss to be recognized, okay, on the transfer, since we will just be transferring it as is at carrying value. Okay, so are we clear on that, class? Any questions or clarifications? Okay, please let me know. All right. So next would be, no, what if there was a transfer from investment property, okay, to the owner occupied property or inventories? Ang sabi po, no, so the fair value at the time of change of use, no, will be the property's deemed costs for subsequent accounting in accordance with IAS 16, IFRS 16, or IAS 2 for inventories, no. So ayun po. So the fair value, okay, na pinaka-latest fair value at the date of change ng use, ha, okay, should be used as the costs of this property, owner occupied or inventories. Okay? So, um, wala rin gain or loss possible kung updated naman yung fair value ng investment property. Yun nga lang, class, halimbawa ito, December 31, 2020, ang huling value ng investment property mo, sabihin natin 1 million. And then nung nag-date ng change of use, halimbawa March 31, 2021, biglang nagpalit ng value, halimbawa 1,100,000 na. So bago mo siya i-transfer to owner-occupied, i-update mo muna. Okay, so you will be debiting investment property, okay, and then credit gain, okay, on fair value change, 'di ba? So that's 100,000. Pero ang ita-transfer mo na, so 1,100,000 na yung value ng investment property, ang ita-transfer mo na pag halimbawa naging inventory siya, so debit inventories, kay 1,100,000, and credit tayo ng investment property, 1,100,000. Okay, so again, the latest fair value at the date of change of use in use, no, for the investment property using the fair value model, okay, will be the deemed costs once you transfer it to the owner occupied or inventory. Okay, so again, another example, no, to show you this transfer. So we are asked to provide for the entry. Okay, so a building of Hamonado Corporation leases out under an operating lease agreement. So this is an investment property kasi initially naka-operating lease siya. Will now be used as an office space. So ayan, gagamitin na daw siya ng office space starting January 2. Okay, so there would be a transfer from um, the building, no, which is an investment property, no, under fair value model kasi ang sabi dito, the fair value of the building was recorded as 4,500,000 on December 31. Okay, will now become an owner-occupied property since gagamitin sa office. So, wala naman change ng fair value, di ba? Unlike with my example in the previous slide. So, ang gagawin mo lang, transfer mo lang. So, debit mo yung building at 4,500,000 and credit investment property building 4,500,000. So, once na-transfer na siya as owner-occupied, no, um, kahit dati naka-fair value model siya, okay, so it will now be subjected to depreciation already kasi it was already classified on January 2, 2021 na owner-occupied. So sir, yung entry na ito is on January 2, yes, no, at the date of change of use, January 2, 2021. Okay? So I hope that that is clear ha. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know lang po. Okay, so konti na lang po, no? So let's continue. Okay, another transfer naman. So what if we have an owner-occupied property? So property, plant, and equipment siya. And then we transfer it to investment property at fair value. So what shall we do? Okay, so let's say for example, the owner-occupied, no, is using the fair value model. So what will we do? Okay, so an entity shall treat the difference at the date between the carrying amount of the property. Okay, so yung carrying amount nito, okay, in accordance with IAS 16 or IFRS 16, and its fair value the same way as revaluation. Okay, so yung difference ng fair value kasi you will be recording the investment property at fair value, and then pag magkaiba yon with the carrying value at the end of the year or period, no, which the date of change in use, okay, will happen, okay, then that will be considered as a revaluation. Okay, magre-revaluation surplus na naman kami. Okay, yeah. Okay, pero mas madali na lang po ito. Okay, so how will we do it? So let me show you, okay, on our first example. So we have actually the same example. Okay, dalawa po yan, 6.1 and 6.2. Ang pinagkaiba lang is yung fair value. So let me show you first example 6.1. So you are asked to record the transfer of the building, okay, which is an owner occupied, to investment property. So let's read the problem. A building owned by Sopas Company located at Santa Mesa, Manila is originally used as an office space by the company. So ayan, yan yung cost bakit siya naging PPE initially. Now on December 31, 2020, the management decided, no, that they will now occupy the office located at Mandaluyong. Okay, the management decision. The building in Santa Mesa is being leased out in an operating lease agreement to another company starting January 4. So ang tanong, kailan natin siya ika-classified as investment property? Sagot, January 4. Okay, at the time na pinalis na siya. Kasi in December 2020, intention pa lang na management. Now, the carrying value of the building in the books of SOPAS at December 31, 2020 was 5,600,000. So yan yung latest carrying value ng building. And the fair value now on January 4, 2021 was 8 million. Okay, so SOPAS company account for the investment property using fair value model and the owner occupied using the revaluation model. Okay, so how are we going to do it? So Okay? Mas malaki yung fair value na magiging value ng investment property kesa sa carrying value ng original na owner-occupied. So what will happen? There would be a revaluation surplus. So debit, investment property at the fair value. Kailan date itong entry? It should be on January 4, 2021. So debit, investment property, a building now 8 million, and then credit the building 5,600,000, which is the carrying value. By the way, kung may accumulated depreciation sana yan, we will be debiting the accumulated depreciation. Okay, and then we credit revaluation surplus, which is the difference between the fair value and our carrying value. Okay, so 2,400,000. Okay? So I hope that that is clear ha. Yun kasi yung nakalagay in paragraph number 60. Di ba? Treat it as if it was a revaluation. Okay. So that's the first example. Okay? Using the similar example except no, binaliktad ko lang. Dati, no, on December 31, 2020, 8 million yung carrying value. Pero nung transfer natin siya as investment property on January 4, 2021, naging 5,600,000 lang siya. So what will now happen kung revaluation treatment yan? Okay, so by the way, additional information, no, the building has a revaluation surplus of 1,400,000 as of December 31, 2020. So we apply the similar approach in IAS 16's discussion natin for PPE. Okay, so we will be debiting the investment property building at the fair value on January 4, 2021 na 5,600,000. Okay? And then, i-reverse muna natin yung revaluation surplus na 1,400,000. Okay? Kung mapapansin ninyo, no, mas mababa by how much? 2,400,000 yung fair value nung investment property kesa dun sa carrying value nung building. So ang mangyayari, no, that 2,400,000 first, no, instead of putting it all as loss, okay, should first reverse the revaluation surplus as what we have did in TPE at saka in intangible asset, 'di ba? So inubos muna natin 'yon. Then the difference, okay, will be charged now to our impairment loss. So I debited impairment loss here 1 million and credit building 8 million pesos. Okay, so it will happen kapag una bumaba yung fair value and then your revaluation surplus is not enough, no, to cater yung loss natin due to the fall of the fair value. Okay, so I hope that naintindihan natin na. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay, so that's the transfer from owner-occupied to investment property at fair value model. Okay, so how about naman po, no, a transfer from inventories, okay, which is wala namang ibang valuation yan kundi cost, lower of cost and net realizable value to the investment property at fair value model. Okay, so ang sabi po in the standard, okay, under paragraph 63 is that for the transfer from inventories to investment property, no, carried at fair value, any difference, no, for the carrying value ng ating inventories at saka yung fair value at the date of change of use, no, shall be treated or recognized in the profit or loss. So, parang ano rin siya, yung kanina sa property, plant, and equipment, yun nga lang, dahil wala namang revaluation sa inventories, it will now be charged to the profit or loss. Okay? So, to show you, here is our example for this transfer. So, again, we are asked for the entry. So a land purchased by Champorado Incorporated, a real estate firm on January 2, 2020, worth 3 million is held for resale in the ordinary course of business. Now, since the land is not yet sold as of December 30, 2020, the management decided to lease it out to another entity starting January 2. Okay, so ayun na, ipapa-lease out na siya under operating lease. Now, the fair value of the land is 5 million on January 2, 2021. So let's now transfer it Okay, so on January to 2021, that would be now a debit to investment property with the fair value of 5 million. Then you credit the costs of the land. Okay, it should be the land. Okay, so again, debit investment property land, no, na 5 million. Then we credit the inventories at 3 million pesos, which is the costs. And then since nag-increase yung value, we will be crediting fair value gain, okay, on transfer from inventories to investment property. So sinunod natin yung IAS 40 paragraph 63 na any changes in the fair value and the carrying value, okay, would be charged to the profit or loss. Okay, so it's a gain for 2 million pesos. Ngayon, kung mas mababa yung fair value, then you will be charging a loss, okay, on the transfer. Okay, so that's our example number 7. So again, if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, so konti na lang po, no? So this is actually the last discussion of transfer, no? Bago tayo mag-proceed to another topic. Okay? So what if meron daw pong self-constructed at costs? Okay, so 'di ba pag kinonstruct natin yung property, okay, and then it will be classified as investment property at fair value. Okay, so when an entity completes the construction or development of a self-constructed investment property, no, so pwede po silang gumawa ng building and then ipaparentahan nila yung building na yon. Now, the costs, okay, um, or I mean the value of our investment property should be at fair value. Okay, so at fair value kasi fair value model siya, then any difference between the fair value of the property and the previous carrying amount, okay, of the self-constructed will be charged as profit or loss. So parang ganito lang yan. So let's say for example, all of your construction costs is amounting to 5 million. And then ang fair value at the time na dahil na-construct na, fully constructed na, pwede na natin siyang iparentahan, no? Then the fair value is let's say 6 million. Okay, so you will be debiting investment property 6 million. Then of course kung yung construction na yon, no, you have paid cash 5 million. Okay, and then you will be crediting gain. Okay? Okay, gain. Kaya naman pwede rin siyang construction account, no? Pwede rin po 'yon. Okay? So pero yung gain natin would be 1 million pesos. Kasi ang sabi, the difference between the carrying amount, okay, which is the constructed cost natin, okay, and the fair value should be charged as profit or loss. Okay? So that's our last about the transfer. Again, there is a transfer if there would be a change in use of that particular asset, no, to or from an investment property. Okay, so again, no, if you do have questions, please let me know. So we are down to our last topic, no, for this discussion. Okay, bago tayo mag-proceed sa natitirang mga examples. Okay, so let's talk about the recognition. So paano naman po dinide-recognize or eliminate yung investment property in our statement of financial position? So in accordance with IAS 40, no, an investment property shall be derecognized una if it was being disposed. Okay, so binenta. Okay, or the investment property is permanently withdrawn from use. Okay, so kagaya nung kanina, no, a transfer from investment property to another asset, no? Okay, permanent withdrawn of from use, or there is no already future economic benefit from disposal. So pwede ba itapon na lang yung building or hayaan na lang natin? Okay, so ayun, no, it will be a derecognition of that investment property. Now, our disposal could be either for sale or by entering into a finance lease. Okay? Kasi again, in finance lease, typically lang, no, there would be a possibility na may transfer of ownership na to the other party. Okay? So, what will happen pag may derecognition? So there would be a recognition of gain or loss, no, arising from the retirement or disposal of the investment property, okay, which will be again determined by the difference of the net disposal proceeds, or yan din po yung ating selling price or net selling price, okay, and less net disposal proceeds, pagpasensya na po yung sulat ko. Okay, and then we compare it with the carrying value, okay, at the date of disposal natin. Okay, so kung cost model ka, okay, na investment property, then i-update mo yung depreciation until the date of disposal. Kung ito ay fair value model, then yung pinaka latest na fair value na i-record mo doon, yun yung kanyang carrying value. Okay, so if the carrying value would be higher than the net disposal, then may loss. Okay, carrying value is greater than net disposal proceeds, okay, then there would be a loss. Pero pag mas malaki yung net disposal proceeds kesa po doon sa carrying value, then we will have a gain. Okay? So which is actually similar lang then with the property, plant, and equipment disposal, and if ever, the intangible asset then. Okay? So that's the end of our theoretical concepts about investment property. Okay, so we will now be summing up no our discussion with some examples pa, okay, about the topic. Okay, so let me discuss example 8. Okay, so we are asked to prepare no for the reclassification of the property, assuming that the company uses cost model and fair value model. Okay, so paano po yung magiging entries natin? So let us read. Tinola Company is in the process of opening a new division as a result of its expansion. As a consequence, its main operations will be transferred to Quezon City. It vacated its land and building in Pasay. So from Pasay, no, walang mailipat mo yung lupat building, hindi, no. So they will be leaving the Pasay area, then transferring to Quezon City. So kung dati po it was an owner occupied, no, ngayon po ay ito na ay magiging investment property, yung Quezon City, ha. So basahin natin. And held them for commercial rental under um sorry, transferred to. So si Quezon City yung lilipatan galing sa Pasay. So yung land and building sa Pasay is ipaparenta na daw under operating lease. Now on such date, no, the land had a carrying amount of 22 million, while the building had a carrying value of 37 million, net of 17 million accumulated depreciation. Okay, so the independent appraiser engaged by Tinola placed a revalued amount of 29 million for the land and 41 million for the building. Okay, so unahin po natin yung cost model. So again, in the cost model transfer, okay, from uh, um, a land and building, no, to become an investment property, okay, na dati po ay owner occupied, no, so walang pinagkaiba, di ba? Sabi natin kanina, the previous carrying value will also be the carrying value if we use the same model na cost model. Okay, so on the use of cost model for the transfer of land, so it will just simply be debit investment property land, 22 million, which is the carrying value at the date of transfer, and credit land, 22 million. Now, as to the building, ang gagawin mo lang, no, i-transfer mo lang lahat, no? You debit investment property building, 54 million. Sir, saan nakuha yon? That's the original cost kasi ang sabi, the carrying value is 37 million. Then nakaneto na daw yon with 17 million. So, i-add back mo lang yon. So, magiging 54 million. Okay? Then, tanggalin mo yung accumulated depreciation related to the owner-occupied. Okay? So, i-debit mo yung 17,000, tatanggalin mo rin yung building, no, na 54 million. And then yung accumulated na tinanggal natin for the original building as owner occupied, ita-transfer lang natin siya as accumulated depreciation for investment property. Okay, so walang gain or loss no using the cost model in that transfer. Okay, and then how about fair value model? Okay, so in the fair value model, okay, what you're going to do is you will be recognizing, of course, uh, revaluation. Okay, so we have um, debit investment property land 29 million, then the land which has a previous 22 million na carrying value, you will now be crediting revaluation surplus of 7 million. Okay, so may reval doon sa kanina under cost model wala. Okay, while the transfer of building, okay, would be a debit to investment property building 41 million, which is now the revalued amount of the building. Then eliminate or derecognize the building, no? So debit accumulated depreciation 17 million, then credit the old building na owner occupied na 54 million, and the difference will now be charged as revaluation surplus 4 million. So saan nanggaling yung 4 million? Yung fair value na 41 million, okay, at the date of change in use minus the carrying value of the building na 37 million. So that would be your 4 million pesos. Okay? So again, if you do have questions, please let me know lang po. So that's again example number 8 about the transfer or reclassification. Okay, so let's proceed with another example. Okay, so example number 9, no? So the questions are what is the gain or loss to be recognized for 2021 at saka what is the amount to be reported as investment property under fair value model in 2021. So Paxiw Company owned 3 investment properties with the following details. So ito po yung initial costs, um, December 31, 2020 fair value and December 31, 2021. Each property was acquired in 2020 with a useful life of 10 years, and accounting policy is to use fair value model for investment property. So wala nang gamit yung 10 years kasi we will not be using for, depreciation. So una, class, ang tanong is 2021, di ba? So ano mangyari? Yung original costs ng 2020, wala na yan. Okay? Wala nang effect yan sa atin. Bakit? Kasi ang tinatanong is 2021. So what we will compare is the ending balance or fair value on December 31, 2020 and the fair value on December 31, 2021. Okay? So with regards to the gain or loss, okay, so we just compare the fair values of the current year na 2021 with the 2020 fair values. So for the property number 1, as you can see, 4 million siya ngayon 2021, but before 3,200,000. So nag-increase, so there would be a gain na 800,000. But as to property number 2, no, dati ay 3 million siya pero naging 2,100,000 na lang. Okay, then that would be a loss of 900. Same with property number 3. No, from 3,600,000, from 3,900,000 dati, naging 3,600,000 na lang siya. So it decreases for 300,000. So if we net this amount, there would be a loss of 400,000. So there is a loss on change of fair value on December 31, 2021 worth 400,000. Okay? And as to the ending balances, just simply add all the fair values at the end of 2021 natin, okay, which is a total of 9,700,000. Okay? So I hope that that is clear ha. Again, if you do have questions, please let me know. Okay? And finally, okay, this is actually the last problem for this discussion, and it's all about disposal. Okay, so using both the cost model and fair value model, determine the gain or loss to be recognized in the profit or loss for the year ended December 31, 2020 regarding the disposal of property according to IAS 40. Okay, so let's read. Sinigang Company purchased an investment property on November 1, 2015 at a cost of 2,500,000. So that's the initial recognition. The property had a useful life of 10 years and a residual value of 150,000. On December 31, 2019, the property had a fair value of 2,400,000. Okay, stop tayo doon. Itong fair value na to, of course, gagamitin lang natin for fair value model. For cost model, i-ignore lang po natin yan. Now, the company's depreciation policy is straight line basis computed to the nearest month. Now, on April 2, 2020, the property was sold for a net proceeds of 2,300,000. So that's the net proceeds. So for the cost model muna, okay, so what you need to do is determine the carrying value, okay, and compare it with the selling price or net proceeds. So the net proceeds po natin is 2,300,000. Now, as to the carrying value, check, no? November 1, 2015 po siya nagsimula. Then we are disposing it on April 1. So if you count that, class, no? Ilang months yon? Okay, in 2015, okay, you have 2 months, di ba? Kasi November, December. In 2016, 12 months yan. Okay, 17, 12 months. 18, 12 months. 19, 12 months. And then, in 2020, dinispose siya ng April 1. So, January, February, March lang. Hindi kasama yung April because it's April 1. Okay, so in 2020, we have 3 months. So if you add them all, nakalipas na buwan is 53 months. Okay, bakit ko kino-compute yan? Kasi we need it for the computation of the carrying value. So yung cost na 2,500,000, okay, then compute the accumulated depreciation from November 1, 2015 to April 1, 2020, no? So that's the cost less the residual value times 53, yun yung na-compute na months up to April 1 over 120. So saan nakuha yung 120? 10 years times 12 months. Okay, so the total accumulated depreciation until the date of disposal was 1,037,917. Okay, and we deduct that from the costs, so the carrying value was 1,462,083. Okay, and as you can see, mas malaki po yung proceeds kesa sa carrying value. Thus, we will have a gain on sale under cost model na 837,970. Okay, so again, that is for our cost model. So kagaya rin ng PPE, update the balance before you dispose. Okay? How about for for fair value model? Okay, so for our fair value model, okay, mas madali kasi the selling price or the net proceeds na 2,300,000, compare it with the previous fair value natin as of December 31, 2019 na 2,400,000. So we will just have a loss on sale of 100,000. Okay, magkaiba sila kasi nga magkaiba yung basis natin in computing. Okay? So, ganun pag fair value model, no? The latest fair value available, that would be our loss. Or I mean, that would be the carrying value po natin. Okay? So, I hope that that is clear, ha? So, that is our discussion of investment property. Okay? So, if you do have questions po, please feel free to key in your questions on our respective chat boxes, and you can also comment your questions in this video lecture. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. I hope that you have understood whatever we have discussed for today. Okay, and ayan. Okay, thank you very much for attending this session. Okay, kamsahamnida. Bye-bye. Sayonara.